Selamat malam semuanya. Selamat malam. If you're here in the room, if I ask you to, may I ask you to turn on your video? Kita akan segera mulai dalam waktu 3 menit ya. Apakah suara saya jelas? Ya. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else in the room yang mau ikut partisipasi? Nanti saya ada ask questions, so it will be nice kalau saya bisa lihat langsung bertatap muka. Ya, apa kabar semuanya? Yang saya lihat hanya screen hitam, saya tidak bisa melihat. So don't mind kalau convenient, you can turn on your video. Ya, okay, I think it's about time. Just make sure semuanya ada di dalam ruangan, so I don't feel so lonely talking alone. Ya, hari ini kebetulan yang saya sendiri jadi host juga, hari ini saya akan berbagi mengenai tempo dan karakter ya. Oke, jelas. Hai Tirza, how are you? Ya, selalu rajin setiap minggu ikut ya, thank you ya. Untuk semuanya, selama sejak bulan Juni kita udah sering mengadakan seminar Beethoven, dan macam-macam speaker sudah datang berbagi tentang Beethoven. Jadi hari ini saya akan fokus ke piano sonata opus 2 nomor 3. Kalau masih ingat, bulan lalu kita bersama Pak Johannes, beliau sharing tentang opus 2 nomor 1. Jadi di dalam satu set itu ada 3 pieces ya, nomor 1, nomor 2, nomor 3 dalam key yang berbeda dan karakter yang berbeda. Hari ini saya akan berbicara mengenai opus 2 nomor 3. Apakah semuanya sudah ready? Boleh kita start dalam waktu 1 menit, 2 menit ya? Yes, give a reaction, kasih tanda oke. Ready? Ya. Oke, selamat malam semuanya. Selamat datang di acara pada hari ini. Saya akan berbincang mengenai tempo dan karakter. Mengapa saya memilih topik tempo dan karakter? Karena setiap hari kita bisa relate to tempo, which is timing, waktu. Kita experience, mengalaminya, waktu dalam kehidupan sehari-hari. Tanpa berpikir pun setiap hari kita tahu jam berapa bangun, jam berapa aktivitas. So kita bisa relate to tempo, timing, waktu. Kemudian karakter. Karakter, setiap hari kita mengalami hal-hal yang berbeda, membuat kita kadang ada hari yang kita lebih happy dari hari-hari sebelumnya. Jadi semua ini adalah emotional gift yang dikasih Tuhan untuk setiap manusia ya. Jadi kita bisa merasakan sedih, senang, kecewa, khawatir, ya, susah, kepanikan. Dan di dalam musik itu banyak sekali karakter. Kalau kita benar-benar melihat notasi, kita bisa mengerti apa yang mau komposer itu katakan kepada performer ataupun kepada reader dari skornya. Jadi kenapa kita harus membicarakan tentang tempo dan karakter dalam musik? Karena dalam musik itu arti tempo dan karakter nggak secara naluri kita mengerti. Seperti halnya kita mengerti waktu dalam kehidupan sehari-hari atau mengerti emotional message in everyday's life. Jadi di musik itu, karena fungsi musik itu juga berbeda-beda ya di dalam kehidupan kita ya. So some of us listen to music as background, which means kita nggak berpikir sama sekali about the music. It's just as a background. Dan some of us, we think of music, we just want to think about happy music, or maybe just love songs, but nothing than that, no more. Hanya yang happy, yang beautiful, udah itu aja. Tapi ada juga sekelompok ya manusia seperti kita yang di sini di room, kita mau berpikir tentang musik. Apa sih selain senang sedih musik itu? What makes music so special? Jadi kenapa musik Beethoven setelah 250 tahun masih dibicarakan, masih diperform, bukunya masih banyak ditulis, masih banyak research paper, masih banyak juga misteri-misteri yang belum diselesaikan. Jadi untuk kalian yang consider to do this research job, you can consider being a musicologist because you get to research, you get to go to library, you dig in and you look at the manuscript and there are many things that you could do. So today kita akan fokus ke pengertian tempo dan karakter ya. Jadi saya akan share screen dari saya punya komputer whenever you're ready. Kemudian satu hal lagi, karena musik itu, terutama instrumental music itu nggak ada lirik. Jadi kalau nggak ada lirik, kita harus study. It doesn't come naturally. Kalau ada lirik, kadang kita mengerti, oh maksud komposernya ini toh. Dari liriknya itu kan kita tahu, oh dia merasa sedih atau kecewa. Tapi kalau instrumental musik nggak ada, jadi sangat abstrak. So we have to learn to study. And how do we study? And why is it important? It will be part of our discussion today ya. Oke, langsung saya akan share from my screen and I will present this. Oke, apakah jelas? Bisa kelihatan slide saya ya? Suara saya juga jelas ya? You can give me a thumb. If
iya,
you can
jelas.
see. Oke, bagus. Now, today specifically we're going to talk about tempo and character in Beethoven Piano Sonata Opus 2 number 3 yang dipublish tahun 1795, yaitu di akhir abad 18 ya. Okay, now we talk about tempo and character in instrumental music ya. Jadi hari ini kita tidak membahas lirik atau teks bahasa, tapi kita akan membahas tentang musik specifically. So, what is tempo? Ya, untuk Anda yang mungkin mengajar musik, mengajar piano, we generally teach tempo to beginners after they learn how to play legato, staccato, maybe pianoforte. Then you talk about tempo. So, what is tempo? So, generally yeah, is defined as how fast or how slow a theme or melody can be played without losing its ability to stir or to calm our hearts or feelings. Jadi tempo itu harus dikonsider dari berbagai faktor sehingga konten dari musik itu bisa membuat hati kita tersentuh. Kita harus merasakan, oh ini musik yang musik dansa. Jadi seharusnya kalau musik dansa itu it will brings happy feeling. Oh, ini musik yang agak sedikit melankolik. Jadi temponya nggak bisa terlalu cepat. Jadi kalau temponya cepat, melankoliknya itu nggak terasa lagi. So that's generally what tempo means. So how fast or how slow a theme can be performed without losing its ability to stir and calm our hearts or feelings. So when you listen to music and it doesn't speak to you, then you must ask yourself, kenapa ya? Kenapa aku nggak merasa apa-apa? Padahal ini musiknya mestinya it's allegro con brio, mestinya saya bisa merasa sangat excited, tapi kok saya nggak rasa. What's going on? I mean, you can ask yourself a few questions. One of the cause it might be tempo, might be too fast or slow. Tentunya di luar tempo masih ada seperti artikulasi, ya, the way you play long or short, and of course dynamic also play important. But today we have such a short time, then I hope I can cover everything karena banyak sekali yang mau saya ceritakan. Tapi hari ini kita akan fokus hanya ke tempo. Now, character. What is character? Kita mengerti di kehidupan sehari-hari karakter ya, sifat-sifat manusia, emotional feeling that you feel every day. But in music also, ya, setiap komposer ada sesuatu yang mau dia sampaikan by writing this melody. Jadi di abad 18 itu kalau komposernya mau menulis theme yang happy, yang excited, cenderung untuk menulis note yang pendek atau banyak staccatosanya atau banyak leap, jump, ya. Kalau untuk melankolik biasanya mereka menulis di slur. You see slurs above the notes means they're more legato and more stepwise. Jadi that's more than that. Jadi karakter artinya kita harus study the notation. We define character in a theme, satu melodi, dengan mempelajari notasinya. Dan kemudian kita menanyakan pertanyaan. Jadi kita nggak cuma telan bulat-bulat, oke, komposernya tulis staccato, ya udah gue main staccato, res ya res. Apa sih susahnya kalau hanya membaca? Yang membaca sebenarnya nggak susah, tapi memahami. Ya, reading and studying is different. Reading mungkin semua orang bisa, mau bahasa apa surat saya baca bisa, tapi kalau untuk memahami, we have to study. Now this is the studying part that I'm going to share about. We ask ourselves question, what do the composer want to say by writing like this? Kenapa sih kok ada triads di sini? Kenapa di sini single melody? Kenapa ada rest? Kenapa dia pilih semiquaver di sini? Apa artinya? So we ask ourselves question, you know, does the passage means majestic atau elegant? Is it vibrant, penuh energi, atau humorous? Is it humor, or is it sentimental, or is it melancholic, or is it pleasant? Dreamlike, masih banyak. Jadi ini beberapa karakter yang harus kita tanya. What does it mean? So we have to ask ourselves question. Jadi hari ini sesinya banyak, saya ingin banyak bertanya juga dengan Anda. Jadi tidak ada jawaban yang benar atau salah, because we all feel things, ya. We were human beings. We live, we breathe, we feel things when they are sad, when we are afraid, we feel all these things. Jadi please do, ya. Now, lanjut. Tempo and Character Study nomor 1, kita akan melihat beberapa skor hari ini, ya. Nggak cuman Opus 2 nomor 3, saya akan mengambil perbandingan dengan Beethoven Piano Concerto nomor 1 yang dipremier oleh Beethovennya sendiri pada tahun yang sama juga. Dan di tahun 1795 memang tahun yang sangat baik untuk Beethoven, ya. Sudah sejak 1792, berarti kira-kira 2 tahunan lebih lah dia tidak publish apapun. Karena dia benar-benar menunggu momen yang pas. Dia tidak mau tergesa-gesa dalam publish sesuatu karena dia punya ambisi untuk menjadikan dia sebagai salah satu komposer yang ternama di Vienna. So, kebetulan tahun 1795, in the beginning of the year, dia sendiri premier Beethoven Piano Concerto nomor 1. Meskipun dipublishnya itu later on, ya. Kalau kita lihat di tahunnya itu di 1801. Tapi sebenarnya di 1795, dia sudah premier this works in the public. Ya. Nah, kalau di zaman Beethoven itu di abad 18, piano sonata itu tidak pernah dimainkan di publik. Jadi selalu itu dimainkan di salon atau kita let's say in the house of all these rich aristocrats, ya. Jadi untuk itu Beethoven really use this opportunity untuk benar-benar explore, mau explore structure or harmonic or melodic anything, he tried with the piano sonatas. Oleh karena itu di awalnya of this piano sonata kita bisa melihat bahwasanya Beethoven tuh benar-benar really stretch the language of the classical tradition, ya. Because first of all, is piano sonata is for solo instrument. Kalau solo instrument berarti aku lebih banyak kebebasan dong. Yang kedua, penonton saya cuma paling 10. Kalaupun mereka nggak suka ya only 10 people. Saya tidak ada resiko apa-apa. So he really takes this chance to write as ambitious as he can, ya. Jadi kalau bisa dilihat Opus 2 itu benar-benar sangat ambisius sekali. Apalagi yang nomor 3 itu benar-benar technical difficulties-nya, ya, as a pianist you have to be fit, you have to practice all your scales, arpeggio, to make sure you can play with strength and vigor. Dan tentunya salah satu tantangan di mana with this modern piano, the mechanics agak sedikit berat, is different from the piano that Beethoven has. Jadi tempo yang ada yang Beethoven mau, we have to work a bit harder, on the modern piano. Okay. Now, let's talk about the tempo and character study, ya. Jadi, we have to study notation. We have to look at the notation. Kita harus baca dan pelajari, nggak cuma baca. Dan kita akan mempelajari 2 notasi dari Beethoven Piano Concerto 1 dan Piano Sonata Opus 2 nomor 3, also first movement. Saya pilih ini karena mereka punya Italian terms marking yang sama. Sama-sama allegro con brio. Sama-sama in the key of C major. Ya. Dan mereka ditulis pas Beethoven di tahun yang sama, pas Beethoven baru berumur 24, I think 24 to 25. Jadi he's a young man, he's quite ambitious. So, waktu kita melihat notation ini, kita akan bertanya, can both works? I will ask you this question. Apakah kedua pilihan karya ini bisa di-perform di tempo yang sama? Kemudian, salah satu lagi pertanyaan saya, apakah salah satu dari piece ini bisa di-perform sedikit lebih pelan ataupun lebih cepat? Dan kenapa? Jadi semuanya itu harus ada reason. Why? Why and why? So keep asking a question, why? Okay, let's just look at the notation. Now, ini adalah piano concerto reduction untuk 2 piano. Jadi kita tidak membaca full score. So the beginning is played by an orchestra. I will play for you, but let's just look at the first 4 measures. Jadi birama 1, 2, 3, 4. Kalau kita sekedar baca tanpa mainkan di keyboard and we just read in our mind, okay, let's read from the top. Allegro con brio. What does it mean? Allegro means lively. It doesn't mean fast, it just means lively. Lively itu ya penuh dengan semangat, lincah, ya. Lively, hidup, semangat. Con brio, with energy. Ya. Jadi hidup bukan cuma hidup, tapi dengan penuh semangat gitu. Berarti the tendency is tempo cannot just be allegro. Kalau allegro aja beda. Con brio berarti allegro con brio-nya pasti sedikit lebih cepat dari allegro. Ya. Nah, oke, allegro con brio kita udah baca. Yang kedua, kita baca apa lagi? Oh, the time signature is 4/4. Jadi kalau 4/4, well, you have to know 18th century, the end of 18th century, sangat dekat sekali dengan High Baroque period. Jadi banyak sekali karakteristik dari Barok masih dipinjam dan dipakai oleh komposer yang menciptakan karya di abad ini. Jadi in Baroque or even in the classical, they use 4/4. Usually 4/4 doesn't mean too fast. Kalau saya mau menuliskan ini sangat cepat, saya akan memakai time signature like 6/8. Let's say 6/8 yang jadi satu ketuknya itu quiver. Jadi kalau yang jadi satu ketuknya itu crotchet, January, it's just not too fast. It just means lively, you know, jangan terburu-buru. Okay, and then we read piano. Kemudian apa lagi? Kalau kita lihat ritmenya, it goes da 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 rest. Ya da 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 tam pam 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 rest. Okay, what does it mean? Why is there rest? And why is there semi-quiver? Okay, I will play the beginning first. Now we start with this. Wah, langsung start dengan tonic chord. It gives you a safe feeling ya. Kita tahu ini pasti udah di C major. Nggak ada misteri apa-apapun. Kemudian di repeat lagi. Tapi staccato. Nah, staccato ini is a sign that is written in the allegro style. Karena allegro style itu selalu ada short notes. And he writes staccato so that you don't perform too long. So you don't do... If you play like that, the tempo become allegro maestoso. Maestoso artinya ya, sangat, you would take a bit more time. So this is allegro con brio, don't forget ya. Jadi ada kecenderungan kalau kita lihat long notes, we will play a bit slower. Jadi untuk menghindari itu, composer write the dots. Okay, ya, so far you with me ya. So we start. Ya, dan ritmenya sama. It's the same. Nobody play different rhythm. They are all homophonic. Tam, pam, 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 nggak ada melody. Ya, do, do, do. It's very simple. And then you have this. Before you have rest. And then you have da-da-di, da-da-da-di. Why the composer write this? Kita bertanya, kenapa? Why can't just be all rest? What happen kalau semua rest aja ya? Pertama, it seems a bit too empty. Ya? So as a good composer, of course, you want to say something. Not also, it doesn't mean you have to feel everything and with no rest. Kalau nggak ada rest itu juga terlalu pengap, nggak bisa bernafas. Jadi kalau di sini, it means there's heightened activity, there's more excitement going on. Kalau ada ini, it makes the measure 3 becomes much more excited. Kalau nggak ada 16 notes, ya ini biasa aja. It's a bit monotone, I think. Kalau nggak ada. Ya, are you with me? Now, I will play again for the first, this time I will play from measure 1 sampai 4. Coba bisa nggak merasakan measure 1, kemudian dengan measure 3, birama ketiga tuh kamu merasa tuh lebih kombrionya tuh lebih dirasakan, lebih excited. Oke. Do you feel a bit more excited on the 3rd and 4th? So he wants to build the passage, the momentum, jadi supaya nggak datar, ya. So that's concerto number 1. I think so far you're okay with this. Then it's all chords, and the rhythm is all the same. What he means, because this is played by the orchestra, it sounds like an announcement. It sounds quite bold and authoritative ya, karena semuanya sama and it's the same uniform. We don't have to analyze the rhythm. The melody is quite simple and it's all short. So that's what he wants us to feel. It's the arrival of the king or the queen. So it's just announcement ya. Jadi membuat pieces ini benar-benar terangkat suasananya gitu ya. And next, let's look at next one. We have Sonata Opus 2 number 3, the beginning. Also allegro con brio, sama-sama di C major, dan mulai dengan tonic chord, tapi dia di sini, dia nggak ada pakai octave, just in the middle here, very nice and calm and just so safe. You feel so comfortable, you know, to start with this. Nah, ini yang nomor 3. Kalau Anda tahu Opus 2 nomor 1, nomor 2, they all start with a pickup notes or an upbeat. It goes from tam pam, and number 2 goes. Yeah, there's a lot of this upbeat feeling, but this one start with that. You know, in a way, it kind of make you feel like, is this allegro con brio or not gitu ya? Atau is this andante cantabile? But not quite so. I think Beethoven is playing with our feeling. Also here, there's a bit of humorous effect. I think karena adanya 16 note on the third beat, yatatatam, it's very playful, you know. Ya. Kalau tidak ada ini, misalnya dia main. What do you think about the composition? It seems quite monotone and it's not that con brio, you know, the style of allegro is not there. So I really think by adding the 16 note, tarararam, Beethoven wants to take the listener so that we feel excited. Yam, parararadam, pam, seakan-akan mau maju, tapi di measure 2, dia ritmenya jadi ke crotchet lagi. So in 18th century music, the shorter the notes generally means more excitement. But of course, we have to look at the context. Kalau di sini allegro con brio, tam, pararadam, pam, pam, you get excited, but then it's being held by yam, pam. Oh, belum saatnya. Seperti kalau kita pegang anak kecil, mereka pengen lari, but we hold them. They already wiggle, they want to go, but we don't let them. You know, sometimes music play with our feelings too. Music nggak selalu semua jelas, so we have to find it, yeah. So I hope you feel this. And so on. I'm going to go through this at the end. Ini hanya give you an example. So after you listen to these 2 pieces, do you think both works, dua pilihan ini bisa di-perform at the same tempo? What do you think? Kalau Anda bisa, if you have any idea, if not, I can answer by myself. Yeah, of course, if you want to talk about, can it be performed in the same tempo? I think it can. Yes, of course, certainly, because sama-sama allegro con brio. What about metronome marking? I'm not talking so much about metronome marking at now. I will talk about that later. Tapi di sini, yang paling penting, bisa di-perform in the same tempo. How about flexibility of tempo? Which work can be perform faster or slower? I would think the works for solo piano, because it's solo, you have more flexibility. I mean, of course, you could go a bit slower or a bit faster. You know, on the days that you feel a bit more energy, of course, you can play a bit faster. On the day you feel a bit not so much energy, you could play a bit slower. But with the orchestra, so many people play at the same time. So as a conductor, I cannot change all the time. Of course, different orchestra, they have different playing capabilities. Ini juga harus dilihat karena nggak bisa lihat hanya di the first 4 measures. We have to see what's going on after that. Itu pasti banyak running notes-nya. Are they able to cope by playing too fast? If they cannot, then you might have to slow down a little bit, but not so much. Supaya nggak kehilangan the character, which is the allegro con brio, cannot be lost. Yeah? You with me so far? Yeah? Okay. Now that's the tempo. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now next, let's take a look at tempo and character study nomor 2. Kalau tadi kita melihat contoh notasi yang sifatnya allegro, sifatnya lively, senang. lincah. So now we're going to look at a slurred conjunct. Conjunct itu maksudnya stepwise. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, re, mi, fa, yang dekat-dekat, yang nggak terlalu banyak jump. Melodic pattern. We're going to look at this in piano concerto number 1 and then in piano sonata, ya. Sama-sama dua-duanya ada. Jadi ini bisa disimpulkan meskipun di dalam sebuah karya, meskipun dikatakan allegro con brio, nggak mungkin dari awal sampai akhir itu semua semi-quaver, semua hyper, ya. Unless it's a toccata, but this is not toccata. In sonata, you expect to feel different things going on. Jadi I always feel in performing Opus 2 number 3, the first movement is the hardest because you have to feel different things dan cepat sekali pergerakannya dari hyperactive to suddenly become so melancholic and then you get energetic again. All these different emotions happen within such a short time, yeah, and within the same tempo. Now my question is, after you study this slur conjunct melodic pattern, you compare it to yang tadi saya mainkan sebelumnya, the opening, how has feelings changed in this new thing? Kalau memang feelingsnya change, let's say become tender, there's a slur note, should there be change of tempo to express tenderness in a melody? Should there be one or not? You can answer me. I mean, there's no,
yes.
Should there be change? Yeah,
yes.
there should be. Okay, and why is that? Now we will look at the notation. We should look at the notation. Now, let's second theme of Beethoven Piano Concerto number 1. You see there are more slurs before there's a lot of staccato and the rhythm is quite uniform. You notice here we have the melody. So suddenly the melody become tender, lembut. So here, when we talk about tenderness, it's like we asking help. Please, would you please do this for me? Kalau kita mau minta bantuan dengan seseorang, we don't talk like this. Hey, please help me. Do this, okay? When we talk like that, we already talk in staccato term. Would you please help me? The way we talk is already like this, like a legato. So when we play this, you can slightly slow down the tempo a little bit compared to. Yes, certainly you can slow down a little bit, but not to exaggerate. Yeah. Now you understand my point. So in the tenderness, to express the tenderness, tempo is really important. If you play in the same tempo as the first theme, tendernessnya itu nggak terlalu terasa, cuma sedikit aja. If you're very sensitive, maybe you hear, but if you're not, then you don't really hear it as tendency. So if I play really fast, I play maybe slightly slower. It would, and then you have more time to express. If you have, if you have a long slur notes, and if you take time, generally there is more expression. You want to tell them more, then the persuasiveness in that statement, tadi saya bilang, would you please help me? It means much more than would you please help me, so we can compare this also with speech. Yeah. Now let's take a look at the next one. Now this is the tender melody in the Opus 2 number 3. Nah, di sini bukan theme yang baru, but this is just a new theme that just happened in the transition. Suddenly Beethoven just want to write a new theme. Actually, this theme is from his quartet. Have any of you listened to his quartet? His quartet, he didn't publish during his time. So after he died, and people discovered, and they found this theme in his quartet. Jadi dia menggunakan kembali tema di quartet. So it is published under WOO 36. It means works without opus. You can check it out. So it has this. Same. I would take more time in here too. Now in 18th century, if you see a broken chord, then ada slur, you can hold the G a bit longer. So we call it finger legato. You can do that, because if you don't, it's a bit too dry. Of course you say, what about pedal? You have to be very careful with the pedal because you have turn. Ta-di-da-da-da. If you use pedal, you could just blur. Gak kedengaran. So if I use pedal, it doesn't sound nice. So I use finger legato. So you take more time. And of course, when you have this ornament, this turn, what is the purpose of composer writing a turn here? Jadi the purpose of this turn is to heighten the expressiveness, to heighten it. Yeah, it's not so that the musician has more notes to practice. No, it's to heighten the expressiveness. Jadi, and when we see turns and when we see here, we shouldn't play too fast because it's not in allegro style. So the speed of the embellishment, you have to consider it. Apakah itu dimainkan di allegro passage or is it adagio? Okay, you have to consider whenever you see any embellishment, you have to question if it's a trill or acciaccatura, appoggiatura, all this turn, you have to ask yourself, is it in the context of lively passage or tender passage? Or in other words, is it written in an adagio passage, the tender one, or allegro? Yeah. So let's take a look at the next one. Now we ask ourselves, why do we need to study tempo and character in music? Why? Why do we have to take so much time studying all this notation? Why can't we just play as it is? You know, we know what to read, we just read. Why do we have to ask this and that? Why? It opens door to understanding the content of the piece. Yeah, if we want to study the tempo and the character, you have to search the notation, and the more you read, the more you understand. Ya, logic ya. Jadi it opens door to understand the content, isinya of the piece. Kalau udah ngerti isi, we will be touched because we will understand the feeling in a given melody that touch our feelings. Because after all, why do we listen to music? Yeah. Music is not just for pleasure. Sometimes we want to feel different things, just the way we enjoy stories where there are different characters or movies in music also. Yeah, it's not just all sunny and nice. There are things happening, especially in sonata. Yeah, jadi ada things that happen, all this tension going on, and then resolutions. That's first thing. Jadi when we are touched, kalau kita tersentuh, we as performer, we can then perform music that speak and touch other people's heart. This is very important, and this is not something that is intuitive or natural. You have to study it. Mengapa? Because this music was written a long time ago in a different social context and using different expressive musical gesture that we are not used to in this modern time. That's why we have to study them. And how do we study? I think that's the next question. We are going to talk about that too. Now, I'm going to insert this very important C.P. Bach, you know, son of Johann Sebastian Bach. And he wrote this very famous essay on true art of keyboard playing. He wrote that, what comprises good performance? I mean, we all here, we want to be good performer. Nobody aspires to be bad performer. So he said, what comprises good performance? The ability through singing. You know, I sing whenever there's tender melody and I try to make sense by singing. The ability through singing or playing to make the ear conscious of the true content. Kenapa kita harus menyanyikan? And we have to read so that we understand, kita mengerti isinya itu apa. And the effectnya feeling of the composition. And then he continues saying, any passage can be so radically changed, bisa diubah by modifying its performance that it will be scarcely recognizable. Kita nggak bisa tahu, oh, is this the piano sonata opus 2 number 3? Why is the tempo like that? And we can't tell. If we change things, we change the affect, and hence the composition will be changed too, and we cannot tell it's the same composition. So very important that we know the true content. That's the first step, yeah? And the affect, the feeling of the composition before you decide on the tempo. This is the next question. Bagaimana kita mempelajari tempo dan karakter in music? Of course, you study notation. You don't just look at one piece. That's why I give you two pieces, one in piano concerto, same key, kalau bisa cari yang lebih sama. But even if you don't have, I actually studied his earlier piano sonatas. If you know, he wrote the earlier one, 47. Even when he was young, so young, he was 13, I think. He was actually 13 or 12. He was really young. He wrote this sets of 3 sonatas. He already had a very good understanding of keys. He knows certain keys mean something. Jadi, in the earlier one, he wrote in F minor, and he also wrote in E flat major, he wrote in D major. Dia sudah mengerti, sangat paham tentang key relation with mood, with feelings. Now, so how do we study tempo? Like I said, you study notation, you study his earlier works, maybe you study the songs. Adelaide, it was written also around the same year, 1795. It has text. I think that's a good place where you can study what, Beethoven naturally means by writing this kind of melodic line. Yeah. And then you study relevant treatises. Jadi ini adalah treatises ataupun essay yang sangat berguna sekali kalau kita mempelajari musik klasik abad 18. So there's the Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, of course there's Clementi, there's Dussek and Kulau, and you know all this. You have to read C.P. Bach essay on the true art of keyboard playing. He talked about what good performance is, and he talked about how to perform such embellishment, even improvisation. He also talked about that. Leopold Mozart, the father of Mozart, also write a treatise, even though dia menulis lebih ke biola, tapi the essence of searching the content and understanding it and how to deliver a good, meaningful performance. He also talked about that. Quantz. In 1752 also is a very good essay on playing the flute. Very good information. Banyak sekali hal yang kita pelajari hari ini on tempo, adagio and allegro was actually Quantz read a chapter on that. Bagaimana how to interpret passages in allegro. So it's very useful resources. So we have to read them because we don't live in that era. So we have to study them. And then we read the letters. And we reread the biography. Sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's just the more you know about a composer, the more you care about what he wants and not wants. So I think you heard about this many times in our previous seminar juga banyak membahas tentang how much you need to know, ya. Performance guide text, banyak sekali buku-buku yang ditulis mengenai analisa or just in general classical music tradition. I think this book by Charles Rosen is quite good. I mean quite academic, but you read what you can do and absorb, and you take your time and enjoy it. And then of course you listen to various genres of music. Jadi during 18th century music, 18th century, the music, there are 2 kinds of music. One is for public concert, one is for private. You listen to both. One, the public concert, of course, like what I just compare you, there's the concerto is for public, ya. Jadi untuk di-perform di depan banyak orang. Opera, of course. Symphony is a big thing, yeah, during the classical era, and also private music like chamber, solo music, and even songs, the smaller one. Okay, now we're going to talk about metronome mark and Italian terms. So may I ask a question? How many of you, when you decide the tempo of a piece, you always need a metronome mark? If you're here in the room, you can answer me, in the chat box. How many of you use metronome to decide on the tempo? And you must always have that marks. Like without that marking, you're a bit confused. How fast is this gonna go? I believe some of you use metronome because in certain pieces, we need metronome marking, yeah? And the next one, how about the Italian terms? How many of you decide the piece on Italian terms and the metronome marking? I think we all do in some way or other. So let's just talk a little bit more about this. Now, this is a letter that Beethoven wrote kepada muridnya. Dan beliau mengatakan, you shall receive by the next post the tempi of the sonata, marked in accordance with Melzel's metronome. Now, I will pause here a little bit. If any of you know the sonata, I'm sure you know. The only piano sonata that Beethoven wrote with metronome marking is the Hammerklavier. And that was in 1817. Yeah. Jadi metronome itu, it was invented in 1815 by Melzel. This guy is actually Beethoven's friend. He was the one who approached Beethoven and asked him to write Wellington victory. So he was so proud of this new invention. Oh yeah, I got this metronome. And Beethoven was so excited about the metronome that he said, oh, from now on, I'm not going to use the Italian terms like adagio and allegro, but then he forgot about it and he go back and write with the Italian terms and not put any metronome marking. If you see 109, 110, they don't have any metronome marking. So what we can learn from this letter is that he kind of think about the tempo after he composed all, you know. So tempo was kind of for him as kind of a finishing, the finishing stage. Now on to the next one. Let's see the next letter. Is a letter that he wrote to his student, Ries, Ferdinand Ries. Here are the tempi of the sonata. Yada yada, first allegro 138. Yang di sini udah belajar hammerklavier siapa? We will have two discussion on hammerklavier, and I think they will talk about this tempo marking, 80 and yada yada. So these are the letter he wrote to his student to change the Italian terms and then to add this metronome marking. So what do we conclude here? Like what I said before, tempo was a finishing stage for Beethoven. So what he cares more, I think we can assume that he really cares more about the affect, the feelings of a given motive. Now let's talk about a bit. I talked about this before. He only write metronome marking in hammerklavier, and his symphonies, everything from number 1 to number 8. Of course, number 9 also. But in 1817, they published semua metronome marking for symphonies. So unfortunately for piano sonata, no metronome marking. So how are we going to decide? We already talked about it, which we need to look at the content. Now we just talk about metronome marking so that you know, because we can relate to metronome. We use metronome to measure ourselves certain speed. So we want to talk about how important is this metronome for Beethoven. There are a lot of debates. Even, let's say, Beethoven tu menulis semua metronome marking on the piano sonatas. Are you going to trust that metronome marking or not? Think about it. Kalau metronome itu diinvent agak awal dan Beethoven tu menulis semua di piano sonatanya, will you trust him and use it according to that metronome marking and not change anything? Do you think it's possible to play Beethoven piano sonata with the same tempo from beginning to the end? Now, there have been a lot of debates going on, ya. Dengan adanya hammerklavier yang tadi kita lihat, banyak pianis complain is too fast. And of course, they say it's too fast because Beethoven was already deaf by that time. So when you're deaf, what you listen here is actually 2 to 4 metronome clicks faster. Jadi harus di-adjust. Ada yang bilang gitu. Kedua, if you know Sir Roger Norrington is a very well-known conductor. He is known to give this historical performance practice with the orchestra. Jadi beliau mengatakan, of course, this is only he talk about eroica. We're not talking about symphony number 9 because there are a lot of debates going on. Symphony number 9 itu metronomnya benar-benar nggak bisa dicapai, ya, banyak yang udah diubah. So he said, do you know metronome marking of 60 is equivalent to 1 second. 1 detik. Tek, tek, tek itu exactly 60. Apakah kamu percaya kalau waktu zaman Beethoven itu masih sama atau enggak? Atau waktu di Beethoven, maybe Beethoven has, I'm sure he only had 24 hours a day, same hours, same minutes and seconds. So I do believe the time during Beethoven is the same. So according to Sir Roger Norrington, he take it on the face value. It has to be performed at 60. Because it changed the meaning. If you listen to eroica, if you perform it a bit slower than 60, it becomes a bit sentimental. But eroica is supposed to be heroic. So, dum, pum, ti-da-dim, pa-da-da-di-dim, if you listen to that. So anyway, so according to dia, itu harus Beethoven marking itu benar dan harus diikutin. Ada yang bilang enggak. Jadi kita bingung kan. So who are we going to listen to? Now, this is Kwan's classification of tempo with metronome marks. So kalau untuk kalian yang benar-benar pakai metronome, you might find this table very, very, very helpful. Oh, Allegro is between 120 and okay, Allegro assai. I think this will be really helpful. It's a good starting point, at least kita bisa tahu that we are not performing under the tempo. We can trust this source, yeah, by quants. Of course, it's so many things that we have to consider. Next, these are the metronome marking that Stuart Gordon, if you know, he talked to us here. Of his Beethoven 32 piano sonata, he wrote this metronome marking for Beethoven piano sonatas. Ini bukan ditulis Beethoven tapi oleh editornya. And these are the people who lived during the 19th century. So they think in terms of 19th century's performance practice. So these are all different metronome markings. So who are you going to follow? Are you going to follow Casella or Czerny, Cello? So many different choices. We are already confused, right? So let's just learn a little bit what Beethoven think about metronome. In the autograph of his song, Nord oder Süd, Beethoven wrote 100 according to Menzel, katanya metronome markingnya itu 100. Tapi ini cuma bisa diaplikasikan di birama pertama, beberapa bagian awal aja itu 100. Karena feeling itu ada tempo sendirinya. And this cannot be entirely be expressed in this metronomic figure. Kita nggak bisa pakai satu metronome figure untuk mendikte semua feeling harus sama gitu. Karena feeling itu has its own tempo and it's impossible for composer to keep changing the tempo within the same movement. I will talk more about this. Jadi, so we can conclude from here that Beethoven thinks that the tempo should be flexible and it should change according to the feeling. Next, Ries, yeah, muridnya, this is the letter that the review he said about his teacher. Beethoven plays his own composition in a very capricious manner. Dia berubah-ubah, but he kept strictly accurate time. I mean, the rhythm is correct. And occasionally, sometimes he will accelerate the tempo. So in a way, Beethoven is no metronomic guy. Yeah? That's what we said. Next, Anton Schindler, what did he say about Beethoven's playing? He said in these pieces, yeah, opus 14 lah, nomor 2, opus 2, number 1, opus 10, number 1, 13, 27, number 2. Dikatakan, these are just pictures of feeling. And every movement, Beethoven varied the tempo accordingly as the feelings change. So many evidence to show us that Beethoven doesn't keep the tempo the same. It changes according to the feelings. Czerny, also a student in 1839, said, subtle variation in tempo in Beethoven's work are important for expression. So tempo is very important to express something. It could be tender or lively or some other human emotion is very important. And you need to have a bit of variations in the tempo for expression. But the exaggeration is to be avoided. But of course, I cannot perform tiba-tiba di tender when I play and I perform twice as slow, it doesn't connect. Just a subtle one is good, yeah? Now, next one. So which tempo marking should we follow when performing Beethoven's piano sonatas? So many standardized recordings available. Everybody is recording all these 32 piano sonatas complete. So how are we going to decide the tempo? I think you already know the answers. We must first seek to understand the content. Kita harus memahami. It doesn't come naturally. Don't just guess, but we have to study. Kalau namanya study, we read it again and again. We analyze them, we sing them. We also read the notation of other genres of music. Supaya kita mengerti betul konten itu apa, nggak bisa cuma pakai terka-terka atau cuma pakai ngikut-ngikut orang, or because the other performer is doing this, that's why I'm doing it. You need to ask yourself why. Not because Schnabel is doing it, so I'm doing it. So we have to understand the content of the music before deciding on the tempo, yeah? Okay, are you with me so far? Yeah? So we cannot decide the tempo in the very beginning. We must study the notation first and understand the content, then we decide on the tempo. Now, it's a very good quote from Leopold Mozart, the father of Mozart. He said, both slow and quick tempos have their degrees. It still remains impossible for composer to describe the exact manner, the speed he desires in performings. So, I should be, yeah, the pace of a composition, I will read this again. Yeah, it still remains impossible for composer to describe the exact manner, the speed he desired in the performing of the piece. So one has to deduce it from the piece itself. So we have to study the piece, and this is by which the true worth of a musician can be recognized. So if you want to learn to be a true musician, you need to study the score. You need to know the content, yeah? Another quote, the pace of a composition, how fast or how slow you go, which is usually indicated by several well-known Italian expressions, is based on its general content as well as the fastest notes and passages contained in it. If you consider all this, it will prevent an allegro from being rushed and adagio from being dragged. So after we consider all the fastest note we take into account and we think about it, it will prevent us to rush our allegro or to drag our adagio tempo. Now, we can conclude here that allegro and adagio tempi, the tempo, can be flexible as feelings change within the movement. Yeah, you all agree with me here? Yeah, jadi the tempo, the allegro dan adagio, it can be flexible as feelings change within the movement. Remember, in one movement, the feelings will change. It cannot stay the same because it will be boring and it will not be interesting for the composer to write and for us to listen. Yeah. Now, this is a really good quote also from Kwan's. I know there's a lot of quotation. I just want to make sure that these are not my own opinions. I study them. I don't just guess them. I don't just feel, I think this is what he means. I study them. So what they say, Kwan's on playing flute, is that good execution, good performance, what he means, it has to be expressive and appropriate to each passion that one encounters. In the allegro, you have to think about lively thing. Liveliness must rule. But in adagio and pieces of tender character, delicacy, things that are really fine and detailed, these has to rule, and the notes must be sustained in an agreeable manner. Yeah, according to Quantz. Now let's talk a little bit about allegro and adagio and the basic things that you should look in the notation so you know for sure, oh, this is allegro and this is adagio style. Now, allegro always means lively and really animated. Very often quick and nimble, but also sometimes at a moderate speed. It doesn't always have to be so fast, bordering on the lively and animated. This is according to this French musician by the name of Brosat. Now, di dalam notasi 18th century, you can see allegro is usually expressed by short notes. Always remember that short notes, sometimes you see the staccato signs. In steps, it could be stepwise or leaps. There's a lot of jumping. I will tell you as we go through Opus 2 number 3 and perform in a spirited. You have to, when we perform allegro piece, we have to set our mood. Think about things that make you lively, or an image that is so highly spirited. And then you play the piece. That's how normally it will help. Without hurrying, just remember allegro should never hurry. Then of course, in the tempo of allegro itu banyak sekali variasi. Yeah, it's not just one. There's allegro, it's different from allegro assai, different from allegro di molto, and all these terms. You have to know your terms. Of course, you can search it and you can find it in any Grove dictionary. You can find what it means and how much you should vary the speed. Yeah. The same with the adagio. Adagio means, the kebalikannya, is smoothly, more comfortably, you should be a leisure way. Ya. Jadi sangat harusnya nyaman. Jadi artinya nyaman, lembut, nyaman, jangan hurry, dan juga jangan terlalu dipelankan. Consequently, almost invariably slowly. Kalau kita nyaman, when we are comfortable, normally when we speak a bit slowly, just a bit slowly. When I talk like this, you feel adagio. But when you talk like that, very highly manner and spirited, your heart beats faster, but of course with no hurry. What I mean is just more excitement. Yeah. Jadi Adagio is usually expressed by slur notes. Yeah, you can see whenever there's a slur note, you know it's adagio style, which allow the notes to be sustained. Artinya untuk ditahan lebih lama without feeling being dragged. It's very important. Jangan terlalu lama jadinya dragging ya. Adagio can be expressed also same like allegro, banyak jenis-jenis adagio, sama dengan juga allegro banyak jenisnya, adagio juga banyak jenisnya. Maybe I just want to stress one point. I remember grew up, my piano teacher told me there are two tempos. One is allegro, means fast, andante means slow. So andante is not even here. Just to clarify, in the 18th century, we used the term allegro, not fast, but lively, adagio. Because andante is just walking. It's not slow at all. Yeah, it's different. So adagio. So there are all these different kinds of adagio di molto, cantabile, arioso, and so on. Yeah. Now, the conclusion, what is the conclusion? This is what I think. After studying all this text, I give you all this information. What is the conclusion? Good composers do not dictate. If you forget everything, kalau Anda tuh lupa dengan semua quotationnya, please remember this. Good composers do not dictate, but rather ignite performers' thoughts, feelings, and choices of tempo. So good composers make you think. It ignites your feeling. It makes you think, why is he writing like this? It makes you feel. And then he leaves it to you to decide on the tempo. He doesn't dictate everything. He doesn't dictate, or you should feel sad here, and then he write sad. This is happy, feel happy, and plays faster. Composer don't write all that. I'm going to share why. Why didn't the composer write that? Just be clear. If composer notates every changes of feelings with tempo markings or other performance direction, we as performers will feel confused and overwhelmed with too much information, leaving us very, very little freedom to express our thought. Umpamanya kalau Beethoven, semua ditulis. Setiap ada perbedaan melodi yang tender, dia tulis metronom markingnya agak pelan. Kemudian ditulis di sana, oh kamu harus berpikir sedia. Terlalu banyak informasi membuat kita tuh bingung. Mau hafal aja udah susah. We'll be stressed. I don't think we want to perform that music anymore because we don't feel free. We cannot express our thoughts, our feelings, okay? That's point number one. Point number two, no two performers will ever perform in the same manner and tempi. Sama-sama allegro con brio. But my allegro will be different from your allegro. Although we study with the same teacher, or although we study the same text, the same notation, but we will always have something that's different because we are all different. Anyway, yeah? So I hope you follow me on that, yeah? Now, it's very interesting one. I think we still have time for this one, yeah? Schnabel. Siapa sih nggak tahu Schnabel? I grew up playing, every time I play sonatas, my teacher, as you know, always say, listen to Schnabel. He would talk very low voice. Please, listen to Schnabel recording. Now you have to buy the recording, go to the library and listen to it. So I grew up knowing all the Schnabel edition. I know him very well. I always listen to him. It's like he is my model. But when I look at the notation this time, yeah, at that time I didn't, because we all have Henley edition. Ya. Jadi kali ini saya lihat edition, I am a bit confused. Okay, I think if you look at Schnabel edition, very clear, it gives us all the fingering, very nice. Okay, that helps a little bit. But I don't understand about the articulation mark. How can he write slurs? Beethoven didn't write slurs between this. Yeah. He didn't write that slur, and I don't think I can play in one slur and all legato. It will be too hard. Okay, if I read Schnabel edition, setelah saya mempelajari semua teks or the 18th century and understand, and then look at Schnabel edition, I will play like this. Let's see. You listen to it and tell me if you agree or not. Of course, you say I am exaggerating. When I look at Schnabel edition, I play like that. I become sentimental. It's not Allegro con brio anymore. So it already changed, like what we read before. It changed, C.P. Bach said. It can be radically changed and it cannot be recognized. Is that Opus 2 number 3? But of course, if it's Schnabel who he performed, he didn't perform like this. But reading his text is different thing. Listening to Schnabel recording and reading his text is different. It's a different experience. We are very convinced with Schnabel performance, but his edition, for me, it's confusing. I don't know about you. So next one, Henley edition. I think we all know this. Yeah, Henley edition. We love and Henley doesn't have the long slur. So I can understand this is what Beethoven wrote. Unfortunately, tidak ada manuskripnya lagi. What we have is just the first edition. I will show you the first edition in just a few seconds as we go through the piece. Yeah, which is very close to this Henley Allegro con brio. So it should be a lot of detached notes. So it should up. Yeah. So yang di sini, it should be detached, not like what Schnabel wrote. Long slur. It shouldn't sound. It's a bit too becomes sentimental. It's not in the spirit of Allegro. Okay, so that's how I look at the score and read it. Now, what other things should we consider after we read all the text and notation? Of course, we have to consider the instrument. Is it a period? If you have played on a period instrument, I had the privilege to play on it. It has a bit lighter punya mechanic. So a lot of tempo, you can go a bit faster and don't feel too much pressure. But with the modern piano, you have to understand, it's a bit harder. This is not the instrument that Beethoven knew when he was alive. But of course, the sound is good, it's big. It speaks to the public. Because during Beethoven's time, piano sonata was not meant to be performed public. So you can consider. Jadi tempo itu banyak consideration ya. After we study the content, semua udah okay, we decide on the tempo. And then of course, as a pianist, we don't always carry the piano with us. It would be great if we can always, our instrument cannot go with us all the time. So we have to adjust to what kind of instrument are we playing. Is it modern or piano or period instrument? How about the touching? How is the piano? We have to consider all this, and then the tempo should be flexible. It could be changed even as you perform on the stage. And when you hear, oh, the acoustic, is it dry or wet? Generally, in dry acoustic, it could be faster. Tapi kalau di wet rooms, so much echo, you have to slow down a little bit. Yeah. And then audience. Are you playing for 10 people or 100 or 1,000? These are all you need to consider. If you play for a group of so many people with big pianos, I think you can take a bit more time. And with private, you could, depends, 10 people, you can even be more, improvise with, just explore, experiment with tempo changes. Just, piano sonata buat Beethoven tuh ya buat dia eksperimen. I think we should take it like that too, if we play for private audiences. Yeah. So these are the tempo consideration. Now next we are going to go through the score really quick. Nggak terasa juga di sini berbincang-bincang banyak. I hope you are not overwhelmed with so much historical facts. Yeah. So I hope you enjoy so far. Now, quick overview of the piano sonata, hanya cepat aja ya. As you know, because this is all the facts is written in the piano concerto style. Ya, piano concerto artinya waktu dia komposisi ini akhirnya tuh ada cadenza. Ya, kemudian beberapa hal karakter piano concerto karena adanya this is the passage that really show the pianist is showing their skill because of playing all this arpeggio. Yeah, this is the style of the piano concerto, and at the end, of course, you see, and this is the cadenza. That's how we know it's written in a concerto style, and it's the most ambitious, and I think it's the longest of the Opus 2 number 3. Yeah. is the longest yang dari opus 2 tuh paling panjang, paling ambitious, paling virtuosic. Yeah, so if you choose this piece, make sure you have to learn all the scales, just be in shape. Yeah. Technical difficulties, of course, you have extended arpeggio, broken octave, quick thirds, octaves. Yeah. Another example to follow, he didn't write in C major again until the Watchtower Sonata. Yeah, it also start with, but yeah, in C major. Jadi perpindahan key-nya juga sama. I mean, the second theme is in E major. Here, in the second movement, we are in E major. Okay. Now, next, what do we have here? Now, let's just talk about the first movement. Yeah, depends on the time that I have. Maybe so far, if you have any question, you can ask me. Of course, I will perform this piece too. We will watch the performance together. But since I'm going to go through some more movements, so in general, you will know what is the content and how I decide on how we decide on the tempo and the character. Nah, ini saya kasih lihat score dari first edition. One of the reason I choose this karena ada sedikit perbedaan antara strokes and dots. Any of you are familiar with the difference between strokes and dots? Strokes generally means it has to be performed slightly a bit longer, yeah? And this happens here. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Di sini. Can you see this? Oh, so in my Hele edition, it was written staccato. So I play like this before I play like this. I play really short. And then I saw this, actually Malcolm Wilson gave me the idea. I mean, it's supposed to be strokes, he said. And I saw, oh yeah, it's strokes. So it makes sense kalau kita, if we analyze this a few measures before the octave, ya, yang paling bawah ini, lihat, ini he repeat this, second time, third, and fourth. Yeah, this you want to make sure to state this right. The last one should be a bit longer, so there's more bonus instead of being a bit. It's a bit funny if you play too short. I think it's in the content. So if you play too short also. So sometimes we have to look the addition, but of course, even if you play it wrong, you can always, try again and do it better. Or you ask yourself question, why did Beethoven write staccato? It's supposed to be longer. And then you look, oh yeah, it's actually a stroke. Yeah. Now, let's talk a little bit in general about this first movement, because I have a lot of things to say. Now, in the first four measures, we already discussed at the beginning. So it's like you start with this really nice C major triad, and then you get lively here. But you're being held back. And then you try again. Nggak jadi. You want to be active, but you're holding off. So there, Beethoven is playing with our feelings. That he wants us to feel excited, but not from the beginning. So he's playing with our expectation. So there's a bit of humorous effect, I think. What do you think? I think there's something for you to think about. Yeah. Now, and then starting on measure 4 and so on, we see the rhythm is getting a bit more crowded. Yeah. There were a bit more polyphonic happening here. Before is homophonic, or the melody on the top. But here, measure 5, you have all this layering, becomes a bit more polyphonic. So there are more things going on. So in general, you should feel more excited on the fourth, on Birama 5, not fourth. Yeah, measure 5. Yeah. Now, let's hear. And then you have forzando. Why forzando there? We have to know the reason why Beethoven write forzando is to express more, to express more
of the style. So if you're in the lively style, that mean in a way it's kind of it kind of hold the passage. Jadi nggak terlalu cepat untuk bergerak ke depan, because generally forzando means expressive. There's more expression in there, and then yes, indeed, the piece is not ready to go yet. So balik lagi. And it even has slur. So there's a tenderness going on already here. Tenderness we can feel already with the forzando. Yeah. So you should consider about the time. Selesai. And then the left hand wants to go. He doesn't want to rest. And then he write staccato at the last triple. The staccato is, again, we talk about liveliness, getting liveliness again. Come on, we shouldn't go back to the tone. We should go to the dominant. Yeah, the right hand wants to hold, the left hand wants to go. So there's this conflicting ideas, yang ini mau pergi, ini enggak. So there's a bit of tension in there, we can feel, yeah. Then suddenly, ini jadi chord. Now here comes the virtuosic, yeah, the soloist passage. And here is where the allegro con brio style is really, really obvious. Yeah, a lot of 16-note, all the short notes, and all this going on for the first page, as you can see in the allegro style, and then goes to the dominant with a rest. Then you have the tender melody. This is just like a solo aria. Yeah, the soprano is singing solo. So you should take a bit more time. And then, of course, because it's in G minor, yeah, so there's a bit a melancholic in there. So I would think about the emotion, and maybe you feel a bit confused in here. You don't know where to go. You're a bit lost. So you think about that before when you play. Oh, I'm a bit lost. Don't know where I'm going. Yeah. So a bit more time. And then next page, jadi yang in G minor. Ini bukan tema kedua, but it's just a transition with a new theme. Yeah. And then all this going on, and then here comes the lively passages again. Generally, kalau when the lively passages come again, the tempo can be more forward. Jadi bisa percepat sedikit, jadi supaya there's liveliness. Yeah. Now, let's continue on. Here is a bit of cadenza here. So that should be really free, the tempo. Karena di kiri juga nggak ada apa-apa. It was just a chord and then rest. So where else can you do this? You know, kalau nggak di sini. Yeah, I mean, this you can do it. It's a cadenza. It should be free in here. Yeah, shouldn't be metronomic. And then here comes the second theme. We have this is just like a duet, love songs. These two singers are singing to each other. So kalau ada duet dan solo, generally the tempo in duet can be a bit more straighter karena duet. Just now solo, the tempo can be more flexible than here. So think about love duet in here. So suddenly change to more passion and love, you know, a loving and passionate feeling in here between two people. Yeah. Now, and then at the end of this theme, of course, we have the transition, we have the virtuosic. All this keep coming back, and then, of course, we talk about this, the difference between strokes and dots, and that's why I use this addition as a reference, and it ends with a nice all this octave displacement and on. Yeah. Then it ends. Now let's talk a little bit about the repeat. Well, I was thinking not to repeat, yeah, in the beginning, but then I sort of calculate the length of this one, the first movement only. If I don't repeat, the first exposition will sound a little bit shorter than the recapitulation. So I was thinking maybe I should just do the repeat. In a way, if I do the repeat, it will still give the emphasis is on the exposition, because in exposition, there's so much things going on. There's so much excitement. So that's why I want to repeat again. But again, the choice of repeat is yours. If you understand the content and you appreciate how those themes bergantian and the feelings changing and you enjoy it, you're welcome to repeat again. So I made the decision to repeat again. Yeah. So of course, at the end, the development section is very short. If I calculate the numbers of the bars, the development section was only 48 bars. It's not very long. In the beginning, the exposition is only 90 bar. If you don't repeat, it will be too short. Karena kalau di recapitulation is about 100 something bars. So if you don't repeat, I felt like it's no balance. Jadi maunya balance gitu. Jadi sedikit the exposition, I think it has to be repeated. So that's how I see it. I mean, of course, you have your own way of looking at the score. You make your choices, yeah? Okay, I think this is quite clear. At the end, we have this nice cadenza. And of course, in classical composition, whenever you see a fermata, I will point you where the fermata is. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, here you have fermata. Yeah, this is where the cadenza does always come. And then you have another fermata here. You're welcome to improvise a little bit at your own. But of course, a lot of performance thing udah banyak note yang ditulis Beethoven, udahlah males lah ngapain nambah-nambah. Not here. Actually, you can either you can add here or here. So I did a little bit, just a little bit, not too much, because cadenza yang udah ditulis juga udah lumayan panjang ya. So fermata during the 18th century is just a time for you to improvise. You know, there's improvisation. As you know, Beethoven is a great improviser. He improvised everything. So, I mean, why not? I mean, we can learn too, yeah? So that's the first movement. Now we end with a really nice, I like that, the 5-1, yeah? So after that's done, Beethoven transport us to a different world. He chose this key. He didn't choose in G major or even in A minor yang ada relatifnya yang dekat-dekat. Tapi ini E major bener-bener is out there. It's really strange key. Yeah? So we wonder why did he do this? I think overall the character of this piece is like Beethoven longing for something, or he's dreaming about something in this passage. But of course the tempo, you should decide about the tempo. After, when you look in the middle, when in the E minor, you have how fast you want to do that, because we have the fast notes in here. Jadi generally, it shouldn't be too fast, because adagio is supposed to be nyaman. You don't want to rush the audience. And then one point that I want to talk about, this is really important before we listen to the performance. In the 2/4, we have this dotted notes. What is the purpose of dotted notes? Kenapa Beethoven nulis dotted notes in there? Why not? Kenapa tidak begitu? Okay, the second version. This is what Beethoven wrote. How does that make you feel compared to the first one? Everything is uniform. There's more expression, right? The tenderness is heightened by the dotted notes. Jadi in 18th century music, when you see dot, you don't calculate ta 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 ta, but you just hold it long. Jadi yang short notes, it will come really short. You don't play ta 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 ta. No, you don't count. The fa sharp itu lebih diperkecil the value. So lamain, benar-benar lamain di G sharpnya. Yeah, don't count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is 75%, this is 25%. No, just long. The longer is better. Of course, in time. Yam, param, pam, pam. It shouldn't sound ta, 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 because it sounds too not tender. Yeah, it's too academic like that. Kemudian ini karena also diperhatikan, it's in 2/4. When you are in, yeah, we don't. I think just now my video stopped a little bit. but now it's okay. Yeah, jadi when we are in 2/4, we have to know we are in 2/4 and not 4/4. We know we like to subdivide artinya 1 and 2 and. Tidak ada salahnya, tapi waktu kita main, in perform, we have to feel in 2, because otherwise it will be in 4/4 and it will be different. So you should always sound 1, 2. If 1 and 2 end, you could play like this. 1. Nah, itu seperti 4/4. Jadi kalau 2/2, yang padam pam pam. Yang padam pam pam. Okay, the same, and then you have this long slur. What happened here? There's even more heightened expression of tenderness karena slurnya semakin banyak ya. And then bukan hanya di bagian atas, di bawah kiri juga. You should really take time with the slur. Ya, the more notes in there, the more expression there. Jadi in the first 4 measures, the third is getting more expressive, even the fourth one also. Yeah, there's even more heightened expression. When you play, you also think like that. Now, the thing about adagio that I find really sort of funny, I think Beethoven juga tahu sih sebenarnya in 18th century music, adagio part itu bagian yang paling susah dimengerti ya. Banyak orang yang mungkin aduh ini pelan sekali, kapan berakhirnya gitu, like you could really doze off ya listening to adagio. So Beethoven tuh pinter. Dia supaya kita nggak ngantuk ya, dia dinamikanya tiba-tiba bisa ada fortissimo. So when you listen to this and at the time you thought kok lama banget, tiba-tiba you're really quite startled by that. And not only that, kita akan lihat satu yang saya rasa lumayan cukup efektif ya, supaya kita nggak ngantuk ya, because there are a lot of things going on this here. Perbedaan dinamikanya itu akan membuat kita benar-benar tetap wonder and dia nggak monoton. So we really go with this. So let's see. Now the form of the second movement is in rondo. Now, generally rondo form is more relaxed than sonata ya. Jadi if you are a new composer, kalau saya komposer yang baru, I will not start learning how to compose by composing sonata, because sonata is the most complicated. Yeah, it's the highly expressive genre. Jadi you will start off writing variation and probably rondos. Jadi rondo itu memang kesannya itu lebih a bit not as tense, a bit relaxed, you know. Now, let's say I want to show you that part where it really wakes you up. Here, you see this fortissimo, yeah? So you go, we thought he's going here. Karena di awalnya memang begitu. Tapi dia, but he add this. He's getting serious. Suddenly, in all the tenders, hey, bangun. It's like that, you know. I was startled by this. I hope you could feel that when I perform, because with the mic sometimes I cannot really tell. Yeah, karena mic saya juga it's not the bigger one. So, but really it has a bit of humorous effect in there. So I'm sure you will be awake. Okay, so that's a little bit about the second. I just want to walk through this. Generally, scherzo itu means humor. So it's different from minuet. Minuet is more elegant. Yeah. Scherzo itu kalau dilihat dari scherzo, lihat dia tuh banyak staccato, so it has to be lively. Jadi in terms of rhythm, it's quite baroque karena rhythm patternnya hampir sama. So you go. It's quite the same. Everything is quite the same. So I wouldn't change so much. I always think about Charlie Chaplin. You know Charlie Chaplin in this silent movie. Yeah, he's quite oblivious. He has no feeling at all. He just do what he wants. When I play scherzo also like that, not so much feeling. It's just everything just in tempo. I'll play a scherzo in tempo. Just think about Charlie Chaplin. If that's a bit of humorous effect, yeah. But of course, in the trio section, it gets a bit serious and majestic. It's a different character, and then you go back. Now, how about the last movement? The last movement is generally just the happy ending. Kalau Anda suka nonton or any good movies with a happy ending, like Disney's movies, at the end, everybody just come up with a character, they all sings and dance. And that's the feeling of this. That's what I get from Allegro Assai. Yeah. In opera buffa also, at the end, there's always happy ending. Nobody dies, everyone happy, and you get to marry the man that you love, and you live happily forever, ever after. That's the story of the rondo. I mean, the last movement, Allegro Assai. Now, I think that's basically it, yeah. I want to leave you with closing thought. I want to talk a little bit before I play the music. We must understand the music of the 18th century as a declamatory speaking art, artinya seni berbicara yang ekspresif, sama artinya. Yeah. If you heard me before, when I'm angry, I talk a bit faster, with a faster tempo. When I want to be tender, I talk slower, perhaps with a softer volume. When I'm excited, I talk like this. All this different feeling you can hear in this music. Now, this is the quote that I want you to remember also. Quant is saying musical execution may be compared with the delivery of an orator. Orator, berarti kan orang yang berbicara di depan umum. The orator and the musician, they have the same aim. Tujuannya sama, to make themselves masters of the hearts of the listeners. So our job is to arouse or to calm, to still your passion, your heart, your feeling, yeah, and to transport them now to this feeling and now to that, yeah. That's Quants. Okay. Now I will play the performance. I will be complete. I hope you bear with me. This is quite a long piece, especially if I repeat the exposition. But I hope you will you enjoy it. And I have it. I already premiered at the YouTube. Yeah. So I asked my colleague, I think Miss Natasha, to share this on the YouTube. Suaranya nggak ada ya kayaknya. Coba kita ulang lagi ya, tadi nggak dari awal.
Maaf, tadi ada no sound, so I'm going to play from my computer instead, ya. So let's just, sorry about it, yeah. So if you don't mind, maybe we'll start from the beginning again. Tadi juga udah, okay. Do you mind if I start from the beginning or you want from the development section? Anybody?
Well, I don't mind.
Okay, then I just go from the beginning, yeah? Tell me if you can hear this, yeah?
Thank you semuanya udah datang dan sempetin untuk mendengar with the technical difficulties ya. So thank you for coming, and I guess we're going to end our session ya. Kalau tidak ada pertanyaan, memang hari ini agak it takes quite a while ya. Thank you everybody for coming, and we still have session next week. Kalau ada pertanyaan, maybe I can answer, but I think it's quite late. Everybody wants to go to bed, yeah. So it's nice to see all of you here. Tirza, thank you for coming every week, yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, dari Sharon, Tirza, Eileen, thank you, and dari Janice, Valerie, yeah. Thank you so much. Next week we have Edith Widayani with us ya. Boleh share, Bang? Kita ada Edith Widayani, she will talk about Opus 7 ya. Jadi itu kelanjutannya dari Opus 2 nomor 3 yang Opus 7. So she will talk about rhythm and silence. So we're very excited. Jadi setiap minggu we will have this seminar on Beethoven ya. At least we have all the dates quite filled up juga sih till the end of the year. So I hope you find this very interesting that you can come and learn together. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. I will see you next week, yeah. So have a good evening. Selamat beristirahat. Besok kita kembali hari Senin. Maybe if you have any final thing that you want to say or you want to add to what I just discussed about tempo and character, please do so. Ya, kalau enggak ya kita ketemu minggu depan. Makasih semuanya udah datang dan sempat kata hadir ya. Thank you everybody. Thank you Stephanie and Ria, Adele, Hyde, Yoanita, Tara, and Philip, everyone here. Thank you so much for coming and listening. I hope you enjoy and learn as much as I have ya. Oke, sampai jumpa next week. Bye-bye. Thank you all. Bye-bye.